Welcome to today's episode where we are going to be doing a mini masterclass all about the dismissive avoidant attachment style and the fearful avoidant in a relationship, specifically when they enter into arguments, challenges, the power struggle stage. And I am so excited to share today's content with you because this is something that I found when people actually go into it and start practicing and applying these tools, it completely transforms their relationship. And it's not something that's really hard to do. It's something that's a little awkward at first when we're not used to it. But as you apply some of these tools and learn some of these things, these insights into your relationship further, it really opens things up. And if you are a fearful avoidant or dismissive avoidant, just learning these things, even if you're currently single and not in a relationship, can be so helpful for reconciling past relationships and where things went wrong and taking away those crucial learnings and understandings so that you're better off for the next time you decide to engage in some sort of relationship with somebody else. And it will really help you also take the necessary steps to becoming secure. Before we get into this video today too, I am curious to hear and let me know in the comments because I'm going to make content accordingly. Let me know what your biggest pain points have been. If you were the fearful avoidant with the dismissive avoidant, what was the hardest part? And if you were a dismissive avoidant with the fearful avoidant, what was the hardest part? And we're going to cover a lot of how to get out of that rut in this video today and throughout this month. So make sure you hit the notification bell, you subscribe. This is our month of going all through the relationship dynamics, and I can't wait to share them with you. So if you're new to this channel, hello and welcome. My name is Gibson, and I'm the founder of the Personal Development School for Relationships. This is basically an online school for relationships. We have a whole bunch of content here. We obviously have a much longer form content in our actual course platform because unfortunately people don't love to watch like hour-long YouTube videos or 3-hour-long YouTube videos. So we save those for inside. But I love to share this stuff, and I'm just excited that you're here to listen to this because these are things that I've really seen over and over again on people's journeys when they get a couple of these things right according to their attachment style and understand these things about other attachment styles, it really makes relationships so much easier. So we're going to talk about it. Again, if you want to learn about how the dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant tend to operate in relationships, especially in the dating stage, we have some earlier content about that throughout the course of this month that goes into it in so much more detail. But I'm going to give you a high-level overview, and then we're going to get into when the problems start to arise. So the fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant, when they meet, they often both value their independence. They have a good time in the dating stage. Everything starts off quite well. And then eventually, there are two major places that this relationship is set to hit major road bumps, okay? And this happens pretty much like clockwork. The first stage is in the dating stage prior to the honeymoon stage. This is very common for actually not just dismissive avoidance, but also fearful avoidance, where at the 4 to 6 month mark, we'll see that commitment is becoming a little more intense. There's more discussion around commitment and moving the needle forward. And are we going to be together? Are we in a relationship? And this is because we know that the dating stage, this comes from our work in the 6 stages of relationships, that the dating stage generally lasts 0 to 6 months before somebody makes a commitment, and then that enters them into the honeymoon stage. But both fearful avoidance and dismissive avoidance tend to be on the later end of that stage in terms of wanting to make a commitment. And so in this relationship, you'll usually see that they date for quite a while before deciding, okay, we're going to be together, we're going to be exclusive, or we're going to take those next steps and really focus on each other. And so you'll see that as they both near closer to this, but particularly for the dismissive avoidant, the cold feet situation starts to come up. So that's our first sort of pullback. I would call that like a 40% pullback, almost like a little bump in the road. Then we have a later pullback, and that's what we're really going to be covering here today. We did an earlier video on the earlier pullback at that point. We have a second point where this relationship is going to start getting challenging, and this is at about 1.5 years in. Maybe a year in. And this is because in our 6 stages of relationship, we have dating stage 0 to 6 months. The more avoidant somebody is, the more they're at the later end of that. The more anxious somebody is, the less they'll date and the quicker they'll move into the honeymoon stage. Then the honeymoon stage lasts for about another year to maybe 1.5 years afterwards. But when we have two avoidant attachment styles together, this is a little bit less, okay? So we're going to see that usually a year out after that first 4 to 6 month pullback, we have the real pullback, okay? And anybody who's ever studied relationships for a long time knows that in this particular dynamic, it's really the second pullback. If the first one is a little road bump, the next one is the pothole, okay? Now, this is, of course, assuming that somebody's not working on their attachment style. If somebody's working on their attachment style, taking the steps towards healing and becoming secure, then this changes. But if this isn't happening and nobody knows or the work's not being done, then this is like a crater compared to the first road bump. And in this crater, what we'll see is that the dismissive avoidant starts feeling a lot more claustrophobic. In the power struggle stage, generally the mask comes off. This is one of the rites of passage that happens out of the honeymoon stage, is like you get comfortable with each other, you take the mask off. Now both people are starting to express their real feelings, their real needs. And the dismissive avoidant, when they are met with somebody telling them more of what they want or telling them what they're not doing that they need more of, the dismissive avoidant takes this all to heart. They very much are sensitive to criticism. They shut down. They start to really pull away and retreat. And that in turn with a fearful avoidant causes the fearful avoidant to start becoming suspicious. They sit there and they go, wait, why is this happening? There must be something going on. They start becoming suspicious and they start fearing abandonment. Two of the biggest wounds or triggers, according to integrated attachment theory, are the trigger of betrayal and the trigger of abandonment for a fearful avoidant. They have other ones too. Like they also have a fear of being trapped and unsafe and unworthy. But these are really top two for them. Okay. Two of the major top ones for them. I have a whole course on this that goes into this in so much detail and it's for free. You can check it out for free for 14 days. It's more than enough time to get through the course. It's the FADA relationship and it's all the stages and everything to do. Use the link below if you want to check that out. We only do this once a year for Black Friday. So I'll put that down below. From this particular space, when they see this happen, now the dismissive avoidance pulled away. The fearful avoidant gets upset and they feel hurt and they feel confused and they try to approach their dismissive avoidant to re-engage them. And this happens quite frequently. And you'll see them try to, approach the dismissive avoidant to re-engage them. But fearful avoidants are not good communicators. Okay. I was a fearful avoidant. That's part of why I got so, fell so in love with this work and love to share it with you. Before doing the work, almost 14 years ago to become secure. And so we see here this cycle starts to unfold where the fearful avoidant starts becoming frustrated in their communication and they're a little more volatile. So they'll be more harsh, more critical with their words. They may slightly raise their voice. They might be, using words that are just not productive for a relationship. They might say like, what's wrong with you? Like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, do you even care? Like, are you cold hearted? Like they'll use comments that are much more judgmental, harsh, critical. And to a fearful avoidant, if somebody talks like that to them when they're angry, fearful avoidants, they'll bite back, but they don't tend to take criticism to heart as much as a dismissive avoidant because they're like, oh, the person's angry. They're just saying things when they're angry. People just say stuff when they're angry. A lot of fearful avoidants kind of move by that. Dismissive avoidants are not like that. They're like, if you're saying something, you mean it with all your heart. This is your true thought about me. This is how you truly feel. And they carry this deep inner fear that they're defective at their core, broken, fundamentally flawed. And so when a fearful avoidant goes to them and says like, you're doing this thing or you're not showing up and they're harsh and critical, it's like nails on a chalkboard to a dismissive avoidant. And every time a dismissive avoidant feels this way, they retreat. They like literally retreat into themselves and they stonewall. And now we have this cycle that's starting to happen where the fearful avoidant has been hurt by the dismissive avoidance actions, okay, because they initially start to retreat in the power struggle stage. They go to make a bid for connection to heal it, but they do it maladaptively. It's not a healthy approach. They don't do it in a healthy way. They don't use constructive communication. So then it further triggers a dismissive avoidant who's pulls back further. And then the fearful avoidant's left feeling like, you hurt me. I tried to hash it out with you and talk to you about it. And then you're punishing me for it or pulling away further from me. You really must not care, or you really must be up to no good, or you really must not be present in this relationship and committed. And then you're probably going to abandon me and I can't trust you. And so we have this cycle where then the fearful avoidant feels more frustrated, more upset. The dismissive avoidant feels more uncomfortable about the fearful avoidant's upset. They retreat further. And this can really go around and around. And this is one of the trigger cycles in this relationship. Now we have other ones. There's so much more that we could unpack, but this is the first thing I want you to see. Okay. Remember I said we're going to cover 5 major things. That's the first thing I want you to see. But now we're going to talk about some really powerful approaches to this. Now I want to be mindful. This is a YouTube video. It's not a 2-hour long course, but we're going to start here, okay? And I want you to just take away a few crucial things because if you start applying a couple of these tools, you're going to start to see this relationship dynamics change, okay? So this is our first part. We have this cycle, and there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There are a few things that when the power struggle starts, okay, both within that trigger cycle, but in the relationship as a whole, that based on thousands of conversations, I mean, I've been working in this field for about 14 years with people specifically, working with clients, not just studying and researching, but actually having like thousands and thousands of real conversations. And what I see here over and over again is that the dismissive avoidant attachment style has reported the same things about what they need from their fearful avoidant partner, and the fearful avoidants end up reporting the same things that they need from their dismissive avoidant partner. Okay, so we're going to break that down in our next 4 major points. Number 1, dismissive avoidants say that they need the fearful avoidant attachment style to change their delivery. They say, I am open to hearing what they want from me. I actually do care about them. I really want to be there for them. But when they talk to me like that, I can't do it. Like it's a non-negotiable for me. I shut down. Even if I try to stay open, I shut down. That's part of the reason that that's happening is because that's a dismissive avoidance freeze response. Okay, it's part of when they go into this dorsal vagal shutdown or even functional freeze. Part of which we'll cover in nervous system week later in this month. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. But they go into this shutdown mode, and that's how they're coping, and they don't know how to take themselves out of that. So here's how we can do this. So this is our second point of 5, okay? For point number 2, dismissive avoidance, they actually respond quite well, and they show up and meet people's needs a lot of the time way more than people give credit to if they get a few crucial things from their fearful avoidant partner. They need the fearful avoidant to positively frame. Okay, so this is a framework I would use all the time with dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance, and then we talk about in integrated attachment theory. The framework is positive framing. So there's a big difference between saying, what's wrong with you? Do you even care? You're not showing up. Like, how can I even do this any longer? And that frustration and that tone versus saying, hey, I'm feeling so disconnected in our relationship and it's really hard for me. And I'm really needing a little more presence and attention, connection. I need us to do things together, and that looks like for me, us having a weekly date night and our phones being away. And so what you're doing here is instead of saying what you're upset about, I want you, if you're the fearful avoidant, to try so hard. I promise you this will change your relationships as a whole if you just did this one thing. I want you to practice framing your communication to be in the positive, what you do want. But most importantly, and this is a huge, important second step, is you have to say what it looks like. Sometimes people just say what they do want. And dismissive avoidance, because they didn't have a lot of modeling for interdependent relationships growing up, they'll hear like, okay, you want me to be more present with you. And for a dismissive avoidant, they could think that that means talking to you and being present for 5 minutes before you go to sleep. And, having a little touch base. Whereas for a fearful avoidant, it might mean like, no, we need like a weekly date night where like we just chat and catch up and have a meaningful conversation. Or we need a habit, every morning for 15 minutes where we, talk about our goals for the day together. It could be so different for every single person. And the dismissive avoidant, unfortunately, is not very likely to be good at mind reading in that scenario. You might think you're being clear by saying, I need more time together. How much more time? Time doing what? Okay, so you want to actually paint the picture for what it looks like. So we're going to call it positively frame, paint the picture. And if you can do that, that's going to start transforming your communication. And what you are going to see, and if somebody doesn't do this and they never show up and they never make an effort, it's not a relationship worth consistently investing in. But what you're highly likely to see is that if you do those things right, the fearful avoidant attachment style, you're going to start feeling more heard. You're actually going to see that your dismissive avoidant partner is going to step up to the plate, okay, a lot more. And you're going to be like, oh, this is a way better way of communicating, okay? So that's our second point, okay? So we have the overall cycle. Then we have this thing that dismissive avoidants need for fearful avoidance is to be more mindful in their delivery, okay? In turn, when the fearful avoidant is more mindful in their delivery, they need to see from their dismissive avoidant partner consistent effort. Here's the kicker. This is what I find the vast majority of time in these relationships. Dismissive avoidance in real time, when you first communicate and you positively frame and you paint the picture, they might have a lukewarm reaction. They might be like, yeah, okay, I can try that. But I want you to vet for their actual actions and their follow through. And what I find the vast majority of the time, and again, there can be people who are not trying to do the work in a relationship and who are not actually going to bother to try. And you have to vet for this. You have to check in for this. Because if somebody's not trying in a relationship, you cannot possibly have a healthy, thriving relationship with only one person doing the work. Okay, so you can vet for this. But the vast majority of the time, dismissive avoidants hear you. They take it in. They kind of go, take a little bit of space to themselves, They reflect on it, and within 2 or 3 days, you'll start seeing those actions happen, okay? Or you'll see the plan, or you'll see the effort. And this is because dismissive avoidants are much more action rather than word people. They tend to communicate a lot more through actions rather than words. And so I want you to vet and see, do they show up in terms of their actions, okay? And what you're going to be looking for is, as you're communicating better in turn, and this is point number 3, you need to be vetting to see if the dismissive avoidant shows up to do the work, to actually make the effort there. And if they do, we have a really good sign happening. Here's our next point. When a fearful avoidant is hurt, they also really need 2 things to resolve conflict with a dismissive avoidant. And this is a really important one. Again, this kind of brings us into a framework. If a fearful avoidant is feeling hurt, they need from a dismissive avoidant partner their feelings to be validated, and they need to understand why the person did the thing that hurt them. I'm telling you right now, if you're a fearful avoidant, one of the things that's going to be most meaningful for you to feel like a conflict is solved is that somebody says, I'm sorry I hurt you. I can see why I hurt you. I get it. I get that you're hurt. I don't like that. So they're validating your feelings, okay? They can say it in a more simple way than that. They can say, I see that you're hurt. I'm sorry, right? So they validate your feelings. And then fearful avoidants, they need to have somebody say to them, here's what happened that led me to make that decision. Okay, so if the decision was they forgot to call you back, if you hear, hey, I'm sorry I forgot to call you back. I see that that hurt. And, I got so tied up with work and I was so stressed that my boss was going to be upset with me. And I was focusing on that. And that's what led to this. If you can give context, transparency as to why you did what you did to the fearful avoidant, fearful avoidants feel resolved, okay? Obviously, the other really important point, and we talk about this in other frameworks, is that, you want your need to be met as well. But transparency around what led up to the situation is so meaningful for fearful avoidance, because then they stop feeling like, oh, it's a betrayal thing, or I can't trust you. If they have context and transparency, they're like, oh, I understand what led up to that. And when I understand, I can actually get my empathy back again. And I can feel like I really see you and hear that this, that I still matter to you, okay? They don't go down the rabbit hole of thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to betray me. You're not investing at all. So context or transparency are huge, okay? And I'll give you one last point for this video. It is that a dismissive avoidant, they need way more than people think. They need to know that when they're trying and when they're making an effort, that they are appreciated. So many dismissive avoidants, they make an effort and they don't know if they're doing it right. And they won't tell you this the vast majority of the time, but they've told me this, over more than a decade and then some of having these conversations with people. They'll say, I don't like trying new stuff because I don't even know if I'm doing it right when I try doing it. It feels really uncomfortable. It feels awkward. I don't like it. It's hard for me. But when their partner's like, hey, I notice you making an effort to call me back more. Thank you. Or I notice like you're making an effort to open up more, communicate. Thank you. When they feel appreciated and acknowledged, and I don't mean appreciated like they don't want these grandiose compliments. They don't want to hear like, you're the best partner in the world. They don't like that. They want to hear just like, hey, I noticed you're trying. Hey, that thing we talked about, you're doing it. And if they feel that, they respond exceptionally well to that kind of positive reinforcement, not grandiose positive reinforcement. You're the best. You're amazing. I love you so much. Sure, that can be nice for anybody on any given day. If you give dismissive avoidants too much grandiose, love, they actually don't like it. But true, sincere forms of appreciation and acknowledgement go such a long way. And if we start doing these things where we're positive framing, we're painting the picture, we're actually making the effort to be consistent about meeting the needs, we're speaking up and we're acknowledging, we're appreciating, and we're making an effort to give context and transparency. Some of these things that we talked about, and you can write them down or go back through them, but this will start to transform the relationship in a big way, even if you just did 1 or 2 of them to start. So what you can do is you can bookmark this video. You can start with 1, you can practice it, you can come back, listen back to this, or you can dive into that course for free if you'd like to check it out further. It'll be super helpful. And again, you can seriously check it out fully free. You enter your credit card, and if you don't renew, if you don't actually sign up for the membership at day 14 and you cancel before, you'll never be charged anything. So it's actually a free membership. And I just really hope this helps you, because I know it can feel really painful when you're in this dynamic and you don't understand it, and it feels like there's no way out, and it feels like you're so confused. You love this person, but why is it so hard? And when you start digging into these frameworks and trying these new things in relationship, it will open things up and it will be healing for you too. So I really hope this was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below any questions that you have. I'll make sure to answer them throughout the next videos that I have. And thank you so much for watching.